lesson for today. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to be we're going to be discussing today, is a better way to say this actually, assignment 1.9. This is a unit project called 5 chairs. So real quick, just for your reminder as well as mine, let's take a quick look at the syllabus and define what it is that we're going to be working on. So slow. All right. So underneath of course assessment here, we have up until this point, all of the grades that I've been collecting have been a class assignment grade. Class assignment grades account for 50% of your overall grade. Unit projects, however, like this project that we're starting today, is worth 30% of your grade. Okay, so we will most likely have a second unit project before the end of the quarter, but this does make up for like a big chunk of your quarter grade. All right, so I just want everybody to be aware of that, turning things in like on time, doing the best you can. It's going to be really important here because it really is a big chunk. So moving on from there, let's talk about the project itself. This is a fun project. I'm hoping that you guys really get into this. I don't know why somebody has turned this in before we've even begun. Gavin, why are you turning in your work, man? You're not done? Oh, maybe you are. Oh, I think that this is the wrong assignment, Gavin. Yeah, okay. All right, there we go. That makes more sense. All right, no worries. Going back here to instructions. So, we're going to be, again, there are 5 different clients today that we're going to be starting to like develop for. This is a 4 class day activity. It's really like, it's not due until next Monday. So each of you will have 4 days in class plus like the day that you have at home in the afternoon to work on this. Today we're going to introduce the activity. We're going to review the grading rubric. We're going to examine some past examples, and we are going to examine potential clients. For homework tonight, you guys are going to pick a client and develop a list of design criteria for that client. Okay, which we'll talk about that more as we go on. Tomorrow or the next day, depending on when you're in class, or you could work on this from home too. You will need some time at home to work on all this stuff. You're going to brainstorm potential solutions for your client and start to develop your final concept sketch. Day 3, you're going to further develop your concept sketch, add lettered notes, shading, and color if you wish. And then day 4, this is going to be primarily like at home. You're going to be doing model development. So you're going to use materials found around your house to develop a proportioned model of your chair. Potential materials include, but are not limited to, things like cardboard, which could be like shipping cardboard. It could be like cereal packages, like the cereal boxes. You could cut those apart. It could be, like all sorts of stuff. Paper, Play-Doh, or some sort of a modeling clay if you happen to have some of that, pipe cleaners, coat hangers, wire of any sort so you can like bend shapes, tape, glue, and other things, right? Maybe it's like egg cart cratons, maybe it's, again, like 2-liter bottles of soda or something like that. You can basically just rummage through, and I might even do that this week, like rummage through your recycling bin before you guys put that out to the curb and grab a couple like materials that you might be able to build some models from at home. By the end of next Monday, you're going to turn in a scanned image of your concept sketch along with a photograph of your model. Okay, so the first thing here we're going to talk about is the clients, then we'll look at some examples, then we're going to talk about the rubric lastly. So here are our clients. Our clients are based upon Simpsons. Okay, so we have 5 different clients, which is why the name of this project is 5 chairs. You're only designing 1 chair for 1 client, not 5. Okay, 1 client, 1 chair. So I'll review each client with you real quick here, and then we'll talk about some examples. So the first client we have is Grandpa. Okay, so as a designer, we get to put our own spin on like what our clients are interested in, but ultimately the chair we design needs to be very clearly defined for each client's individual needs. Grandpa is an old man who is achy and sometimes a bit grouchy. He has trouble getting around, so he walks with a cane. He also has difficulty getting into and out of his chair, though he sits in his chair most of the day. Okay, so we have Grandpa here. Ralph. Ralph is a high schooler who spends 8 hours a day in class. Most of the time, Ralph has to sit in an uncomfortable chair, sitting up and facing the front of the room. While Ralph moves between classes, he carries a large backpack. When he gets to class, he needs a place to put his stuff. Next, we have Maggie. Maggie is a 1-year-old who loves to play and crawl around everywhere. Maggie likes to explore on her own and be independent while she sucks on her binky. When it is time for her to sit, she gets whiny and squirmy. Neil is an astronaut who travels in space. When he's in his spaceship, he's in a weightless environment. This is cool most of the time, but it is a challenge when he needs to sit down and drink his Tang. Neil also has a bulky spacesuit that often gets in his way, or often gets in the way, excuse me. And then lastly, Lisa is a marathon runner who runs every single day. She hates being stationary, and because she exercises so much, she has really sore muscles. When she finally does sit down, it's really important that her chair be very comfortable to help her relax and recover from her run for the next day. Okay, so these are our 5 clients. And again, tonight, you're going to pick one of these 5 clients and you're going to develop a list of criteria that client is looking for. I am looking for a strong connection between your client and the chair that you designed for your client. Okay, I should really be able to look at the chair and know which client you're designing for based upon the things that you add to your chair. So let's talk about the chairs and let's look at some examples. And we'll talk about some things that are a little different here. So this is the first time that I'm doing this project. This project has been done by Mr. Navertil in the past with the junior high kids. So some of this stuff, these examples, are a little off of what we're going to be looking for, primarily in the lettering aspect of things. All of your notes are going to be lettered in this, where in this project, the examples that we have, that wasn't a requirement at the time, but we've changed that now. Okay, so another thing that you're going to notice as we go through these is like the picture of the model and the picture of the sheet are together. You're going to be turning those in like 2 separate instances. You're going to have like a straight down view of your drawing, just like we always do with everything else. And then you're going to have like a shot of your model that goes along with it. Okay, so those are some of the things that are going to be different, but a lot of this stuff is the same. So this right here, first of all, Jack, Sherwood, and Neil's chair are lettered, and they're lettered very nicely. The rest of this information is not lettered. It would have to be. But other than that, like this is a great example. So first of all, we have the design criteria that Neil needs for his chair. And again, each one of you gets to design your own criteria based upon the client's needs. But here, Neil has a seatbelt to prevent floating away. The seat needs to be bulky to fit the spacesuit in. Tight cup holder to hold the Tang. They've put in the back flavored O2 tanks, you know, for like some nice flavored oxygen, I guess. That's right, Brendan. I'm recording this video. I'm going to post it later on to Classroom so you can finish it there. And then lastly, space-like padding. Okay, so let's talk about the drawing a little bit here before we move on too much further. So in all of these examples, students are using a form of technical communication of drawing that's called an orthographic projection. We're really going to dive into the nitty gritty of how orthographic projections are set up in kind of like in the next unit or the unit thereafter where we're talking about technical drawing. But in orthographic projection is when you see like the front, the top, and the side, or any two of those three views straight on. Okay, versus like an isometric drawing, which is what we've been doing, which is three-dimensional. So for this example, or for this project, you can either do a 3D drawing like we've been doing, or you can break your chair down into at least 2 out of 3 views, where you see like the front and the top, or the front and the side, or maybe like the side and the top, like it's drawn here. Or maybe you have both, like is drawn here as well. One thing that's really critical, again, this is a unit project for the sketching unit. So sketching, and you'll see this in our grading rubric, is the most important aspect of this project. You need to be able to clearly communicate your idea in your sketch. Okay, I cannot stress enough that clear communication is going to be the key to like success in this project. Whether that's clearly communicating in drawing alone, or clearly communicating in drawing with notes, clearly communicating in multiple views, or maybe like one view. The point is here, by the end of this project and by looking at your drawing, I really need to have like a clear idea as to what you are designing. So again, these are the design criteria that the student has set. So within the chair, the design criteria has been designed. So we have space-like padding, whatever space-like padding is. There's a seat belt. The chair is extra wide to fit the spacesuit. There's a cup holder in the chair, and there's a space in the back to hold the O2 tanks. And again, this is like a good drawing, but honestly, having the top and the side view do give a lot more information. Like the O2 tanks are a little bit easier, the seat belt is a little bit easier to see, and the cup holder is also a little bit easier to see. So I think it was smart that this student went, you know, in this direction, showing all of these, because together they speak like a much better design language than any one of them alone. Okay, it's a lot more clear. And then we have the model itself, right? So the student made this model out of foam core. We can see the space for the O2 tanks. We can see the armrest. You can actually see like where they've poked a hole for the cup holder. There's a piece of string coming across here, which represents the seat belts. And you're going to notice through all of these examples that the model clearly represents the drawing, okay? There should be a strong correlation between things like shape, proportion, size, detail, between the drawing and the models themselves. Are there any questions on this particular example before we move forward? Okay. Next one here, we can't really see the notes. So again, not a great example of like showing technical notes and lettering. So that's something that like we will do differently. However, when I do start to look at things like there's a storage compartment on the bottom, it's a comfortable chair. I believe that this chair is designed for Ralph, which is the high school student. So here, this is just an orthographic representation. The front of the chair, the top of the chair, the side of the chair. They have shading within it, and shading or coloring is going to be required once again. And like a really great representation of the shape of this thing, once again, by showing three different views. Because this is like an organic, flowy turn like shape, drawing this in an isometric 3D view would be kind of complicated, honestly. It would be a struggle to design this and clearly show this. So again, by showing it in like these three views, I think that the student has made a smart decision on how to communicate this. And once again, when we look at the drawing versus the model, which this model is made out of like corrugated cardboard, very clear and strong correlation between the drawing and the model, from like the different individual pieces of padding to the shape to the storage compartment on the bottom. The student has done a really good job of creating a model to go along with their sketch. This is another chair for Neil Armstrong. Must be large enough to fit the spacesuit, must hold Neil down when in a weightless environment. Again, this is also like nice lettering here. This is a really good example. Must be stationary, must have a drink holder or a way to hold, to drink Tang. Must be easy to sit down and get up, must be strong. So, you know, this student, like the strong thing and like the must be easy to get up and get down, those are really not requirements, but that's something that the student has put in here. I love the idea of it being strong because like maybe this is, you know, like the space shuttle's seat that he sits in to launch and like come back. So that makes sense that it's strong. Again, really great sketch from like a front and a side view. Headrest, good shading. This has like a seatbelt bar thing, you know, kind of like we would see at maybe an amusement park on like a roller coaster. Has a footrest underneath, has this crossbar here for added strength. It can be bolted to the ground over here because again, we don't want it to be floating away. Leather to help get pushes the seat up. Drink holder for Tang put in here. And again, like a seat belt that can go up or down to hold him down in a weightless environment. And again, really nice, strong model to go along with the sketch. Great shading in this sketch. And again, good notes, not lettered on the notes, but again, the lettering up here is super nice. Lettering down here would be required as well. Here's a chair. It doesn't mention, again, the clients. I imagine, though, that this is for Ralph, the high school student. Must be comfortable, must allow for slouching, must be able to turn, must have a storage space, must have a desk. So this has a place for Ralph to hang his book bag off the back. It has a bendy back so that it's more comfortable to sit in. It has a fold-down desk. It has wheels and like a rotating piece so that he doesn't always have to sit forward, I guess. Cushion seat, again, for more comfort. It has these drawers in it. And again, this has like a front view, a side view, and a top view. This example is an example that is not so ideal. This example is, again, for Ralph, the high school student, has to hold a backpack, comfortable to be in a school chair, desktop. They want it to rock back and forth. Extra storage space. Okay, so the model is pretty nice. The design criteria, the constraints are not so bad. The sketch, though, on the other hand, definitely leaves something to be desired here. Okay, so this is not an ideal example. You know, the sketch, which again is worth a large portion of this project, is very weak, honestly. This would not get high marks from like a sketching perspective. It's more like a stick drawing, doesn't have a ton of detail, doesn't have shading, you know, and like this has a backpack holder on the back that's not represented in the model. So this is an example that could be better, honestly. And lastly, we're going to just like run through this because I need to get to the rubric here. But again, I'm not exactly sure who this is for because it's cushioned and it has like a recliner aspect to it, I'm pretty sure it's Grandpa. Again, though, here the student has drawn an isometric view of Grandpa's chair. They've also drawn a front view. They have great shading within it. Lots of notes. Okay, and again, you can do your notes. You can do this whole project on graph paper. And you can use the graph paper stuff to letter your notes. Okay, so talking about lettering and talking about that stuff, let's look at your rubric quick. So we have 5 different design criteria that we're going to be discussing today: proportions, attention to detail, color and shading, lettering, and model creation. Each one of these is essentially rated on a 1 through 5 scale, but I've multiplied each one of them by 4 to give a total of 100 points. Okay, so we're going to talk about like the top end, like the 20 and the 16 point options, going on down through here, and then that'll be the end of class basically. So proportions of the sketch mirror realistic size and shape of the made object. So again, when you draw it, your model and your drawing should look similar to one another. They should have the same proportions. Proportions of the sketch closely resemble the realistic size and shape, right? So this is like, it's basically right on. This is it's close, somewhat resemble. It is disproportional. No evidence was given that proper proportions were even attempted. Okay, so that's proportions. Attention to detail, I actually need to add a little bit to attention to detail, I've decided. So right now, attention to detail just simply says proportions of the sketch closely resemble the realistic size and shape. The other thing that I really want to add to this, and honestly, more importantly, is that you are designing your chair for your client and that you're paying close attention to your client's needs. So that's something that I'm going to add to this rubric section later today. Tomorrow, or like by this evening, that'll be updated and you can double check those requirements. Color and shading. The sketch has strong, well done shading that displays good use of value to represent colors of the object and creates a realistic and three-dimensional appearance. So once again, shading is the thing that is required. You do not need to color this, but if you want to color it, then you're more than welcome to. But I am looking that you take your 2D shape and you add shading to give it like 3 dimensions. You know, like this example where it's like lighter on the front and like darker on the side shows like depth to this like cushion and stuff like that. So that helps with the shading. We go on from there. Lettering. Lettering touches the guidelines. If you're not going to use graph paper, then you're going to take like a ruler and you're going to lay out parallel lines to put your lettering in. I would suggest using graph paper though for this project. Letters are narrower than they are high. Spacing between the words is consistent, and you follow the recommended stroke sequence. Okay. Here, lettering mostly touches guidelines. Letters are narrower than they are high. Spacing between the words is consistent, and they mostly follow recommended strokes. So, just so that everybody is kind of like doing the math here, 4 out of the 5 of these requirements are based upon the piece of paper that you turn in alone. Okay, the drawing and the notes are worth 80% of this project. The model is worth only 1 criteria. It's only worth 20% of this project. It's still important because I'm going to be pulling like things like proportions and comparing them to your model as well. And I'm not suggesting that you should like throw it out with the bathwater, but I just want everybody to be aware that like the drawing is the thing that you're spending most of your time on. The model is going to be the thing that like you do to, again, further represent your drawing. So the model shows great attention to detail and is a realistic representation of the object. Or the model contains many strong elements of detail, but some details are missing. Okay, so these are the 5 design criteria that we're going to be running through. So Class is just about over, but before everybody leaves, I just want to remind you all that tonight for homework, you're going to pick a client and develop a list of design criteria, just like was in those examples, for that client. Tomorrow, we're going to start developing sketches for these clients. Okay?